Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos.
That's right.
This is a really special episode. Thank you, PBR, James and
PBR.
Cassie, much love. Thank you guys for letting me pick this record. This record is
a great record.
Insanely important to me. We don't have enough time in 25 or 30 minutes to talk about it, but I'm going to try to hit certain notes. I put some sticky notes in my brain the past couple of days of key notes I wanted to talk about, just because it's that great of a record and that important to me. But it's by Tom Waits, and the record is Rain Dogs, right there. If there's ever an album, I think that should have been a musical. It should be this record. It's loosely based on, I think, dogs that get lost in the night in New York City in the 80s.
I can actually tell you what Tom Waits said about that name.
Yeah. And well, the funny thing is I was telling James, my brother Scott and I growing up in Queens, we used to talk about gas station dogs. And gas station dogs were dogs that slept at gas stations all the time, but they'd be sleeping in the sun and the rain, and they'd have grease and oil all over them, and they were the saddest things. And you'd see them walk in packs. But when I heard about this record, that's what I immediately thought
of.
Yeah.
Well, you know what the funny thing is? When asked about it, because Tom Waits he has this interesting, interesting personality.
He could also be a comedian.
But somebody had asked him what is a rain dog, and he said, well, it's like these little dogs that you get at Coney Island. He's like, they're small, but they're but there's no dog. There's no hot dog. It's just it's just rain. They're just sad buns left out in the rain. And it was really, because what a creative
It's true. Well, he's got so many good one-liners. I remember he said, "I don't care who I step on my way up the ladder."
That's right.
Yeah,
just speaking of the gas station dogs, I like your outfit today.
Oh,
this is beautiful.
Yeah. I changed my shirt.
I know.
Nice.
Hey, you guys look wonderful. It's so good to see you.
Wardrobe change.
Yeah. So
Tom.
James, exactly. I'll drink to that, James. So, and thank you, PBR. So, James has mentioned this before, and I think I hear Tom Waits playing. I always happen to agree with what James says. I love the way we're aligned. I love his thought process and stuff, especially in art and music. And he mentioned that it's not even his thought. It was somebody who said that, a lot of times the first record you hear by a band is your favorite. So this was the first record that I heard by Tom Waits. I certainly dug into his whole catalog after that. But before that, in the 70s, he was on Asylum Records, and he was basically kind of like a Jack Kerouac to jazz,
Sure.
And there's 2 or 3 records. Yeah, 2 or 3 records off that I like Closing Time.
That era.
Closing Time's a wonderful record. Hardest Saturday Night, I love, But he handed in this record called Silver Trombones, which his wife turned him on to basically Howlin' Wolf and Captain Beefheart.
Yep.
And he changed the whole sound. He handed in this record, Silver Trombones, to them, and they're like, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
They dropped him. He gets signed by Chris Blackwell, legend, here at Island Records, who's notorious for taking risks. Bob Marley, U2, The Pogues, awesome acts, And he puts together Silver Trombones, which I love that record, but I didn't hear it till after this. And basically, this is in the middle of a trilogy, which is Silver Trombones, Rain Dogs, and Frank's Wild
Yes,
Fields.
exactly.
And I could talk all day about this record, but I love it. And the crazy thing is even if you don't,
you only got a half an hour.
Yeah, even if you don't like his rough voice, the poetry, the lyrics, and the hooks, the guy knows how to write insane hooks.
I think it's so first of all, you're talking about, and I think I said this on the last Tom Waits, when we did Real Gone, that my first introduction to Tom Waits was just that I was good friends with you, and the Red Boys covered Jockey Full of Bourbon,
which is on this record. Jockey Full of Bourbon, an amazing song that uses a horse whip as an instrument.
Well, they used all kinds of crazy things
a lot of closed
on
jail doors,
which
and stuff,
is amazing. They ended up beating a chest of drawers until it was just wood, just making this percussion sound. But no, this and Mule Variations, because I think it came out right around the time, like shortly before I moved to Florida. And I remember when I like lived in Florida, I got mule variations, and like, okay, first of all, I cannot listen to Tom Waits and not think of you, because it's like, because that was my, you were such a Tom Waits fan, and like you've been like one of my oldest friends. So when I moved to Florida, I like missed home so much. I would listen to, I missed you and home. I would listen to. Like Hold On from the Mule Variations, and I would just bawl my eyes out and just like miss you and like miss Atlanta and like, but like just so like Tom Waits for me, you know, when you're talking about like your first impression of something, not just it being your favorite album, but also like maybe the circumstances around there give it a certain like Tom Waits means something to me because you're such a good friend of mine and such an old friend of mine that it's like it has this connection. Everything of his just has this connection to me because I associate it with.
This is in your DNA.
Well, I guess what I was going to say is because I've known you both so long, and cheers to our friendship and much love to all of that. But James and I met as peers and musicians, sharing the stage together, and really I've only gotten closer over the years, and I'm so thankful and grateful for that. But like during that time when I met him. James intimidated me. I've always thought he was such a talented, wonderful guy, you know. And I was just trying to get better. So I surrounded myself with people that are better than me, which is what you should do. So I'm intimidated, but I'm learning and I'm striving, you know. And this was at a time that I wanted to marry rock and roll, punk rock, noises with poetry. You know, like
which he does.
Half of these things sound like they could have been Bukowski poems, you know.
For sure.
And there's just like this really gorgeous, you know, marriage to it, you know. And then on top of that, like I said, holy cow, hooks. Like I said, if someone doesn't like his voice, let someone with a clean voice sing it. You're gonna be like, I love that song. It should sell me. Like, you know, the song Downtown Train, which I love.
It is
and
beautiful.
The video is beautiful, you know, and basically...
Which was made more popular by Rod Stewart doing that.
And he was interviewed about that, you know, and Tom Waits does not say anything bad about anybody. That's one of the things, he's such a beautiful guy.
He sounds like the sweetest person.
Someone asked him, well, you know, he's just like a lover of life, you know, and he paints the bad side of life, like, really beautifully, but like the guy's probably a pretty normal family man, you know, but he was interviewed, asked about Rod Stewart's version of Downtown Train. And he goes, I've met Rod a couple times at a few parties. Really nice guy and a gentleman. And all I got to say is thank you for covering it because it put a pool in my backyard for my kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Rod Stewart's version made a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it might be very safe the way he covered it.
Yeah.
But Tom Waits doesn't have a bad thing to say about it.
Here's a really funny quote Tom Waits had about songs being kind of like birds, where he throws at this little bird, and sometimes the bird comes back with a bunch of money.
Yeah. Well, no, he's like, you know, and we've learned about this. B. Kinch and I learned about this with Western Motel. Like, we were in the studio, and our producer was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but this record was done 4 sessions ago. You guys are wasting money. And Tom Waits has this thing. He goes, a song is like putting a turkey in the oven on Thanksgiving. You don't know when to take it out.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
Like, you know, and so many wonderful things that, like you mentioned, Mule Variations, which he's had so many interesting things in his career.
Yeah.
That was his first record on Epitaph, which is a punk label. Yeah. And what a great record. I mean, Coming Up to the House is a gospel song. Hold On is a gorgeous song that Bruce Springsteen wish he wrote, you know.
Yeah.
But he was interviewed, he did a lot of interviews during that session. And again, B. Kinch and I were laughing. We were in New England and read this interview. And he was asked about some band that was big at the time. Maybe it was Oasis or whoever it was, whatever. And he said what I've said in episodes. He goes, anytime 3 million people go out and buy something, I'm fearful. That means there was a campaign or a business behind it. He goes, so I'll wait 4 years and listen to it. And if it's good, well, then it's good. He goes, it's 1999. I'm just starting to listen to the Beatles.
All right. He's got so many.
He could be a comedian.
I mean, he said something. He was talking about beating the chest of drawers or whatever. He was saying that, like, in the studio, you know, the producer or like whoever would be like, why don't you just use this, like, if you want this drum sound, just why don't you just hit the, you know, take the whatever. He's like, and he said something like, he said, no, I like to, when it comes to a sound, I like to chase it.
Yes.
And kill it, or hunt it, kill it, skin it, cook it, eat it. Like, kind of like really, like, it was very
experimental during this time. You got to understand, he was living in New York.
Yes.
Hanging out with Jim Jarmusch, like the coolest artists ever. You know, and it kills me because Well, actually, I was probably like 14 or something, but certainly wasn't cool, and wouldn't have known these
You were
guys.
probably-
And lived 20 minutes away in Queens. You were in New Jersey. We didn't
Sure.
know this. I didn't
This was
discover it
going
until
on.
years later, But he was very experimental. So in many ways, it was like an effed up like jazz band, upright bass and a percussionist and a drummer. But then, like I said,
piano.
a piano and some horns. And whips, and
right.
but he loves the sound of like jail doors and like car
Yes.
doors and metal. He really came up with this thing. He goes, it's funny because you heard about like bebop and then later on hip hop, whatever. But he's like, I love that boom clack,
Yeah.
boom clack, and like his songs
Which is
sound
great.
like that.
Totally, yes.
His songs sound
well,
like that.
He said that he was afraid of percussion. I don't remember the exact quote about being afraid, but then the guy who did percussion on this, like, he's
Stephen
actually
Hodges,
done
he's played with Mike Watt, and I've
he's
hung
like-
out with
Yeah,
him.
that
Wonderful,
guy's-
He like so
amazing
he's like
drummer.
he's like I had like bowls from China to
What?
like make like the different sounds and stuff. Like he said he brought like crates, boxes of like different instruments, different things to make
Right.
sounds from like all over the world, and it's like, what?
Yeah, so many things happen.
You can come. Let's see. No,
So-
I think that the point that I was making is that nobody can, only he can
Yes, exactly.
take all these things that are clanging around and making something
Exactly.
so beautiful out of it. That's the whole idea. is
Yeah,
that-
I mean,
that nobody else has that like kind of. A lot of people can make a lot of noisy experimental
Right.
music,
Right.
but he can take it and make something
Right.
immensely beautiful out of it.
Let me let people
nobody else
know
can do.
this show is awesome and there's no edits. And what a better thing to happen for a Tom Waits record,
Yeah.
because he's a beautiful storyteller and a friend we haven't seen in years just walks in the door. So it's like
There you go.
we love serendipity, we love all this. But for me, the point I wanted to say was, it was a time that I was trying to really strive to be my best at, like, achieving telling a story.
Yes.
Songs, because master at it. Like,
Yes.
another great Tom Waits story or line is, he wrote the song Jersey Girl, but Bruce Springsteen covered it. He wrote it about his wife,
Right.
but he wrote the song Jersey Girl, and Bruce
Was
Springsteen
it
covered it. and
Kathleen Brennan?
Yes, and Bruce Springsteen made it huge, and everyone thinks it's a Bruce Springsteen song.
Really?
And that's fine. But I guess at one point Bruce Springsteen was playing in LA at a huge stadium, and Tom Waits was playing a small theater. And someone was like, are you going to go see Bruce Springsteen tonight? He's like, I'm playing a show. He goes, plus I've done enough for him. Like this. And it winds up being, I think he played from like 7 to 9. He was done, and Bruce Springsteen is notorious for playing like 8-hour concerts.
Sure,
Right.
yeah.
He went to the show, and to the end, did
Did
Jersey
he?
Girl with him, like after the
There you go.
That's
like,
what's
yeah,
he
so-
sounds like
turned out
just
fun.
the most
Yeah,
amazing
yeah,
human.
yeah.
Like he's so creative, like his thought process, like just his
Th-
quotes,
that-
so imaginative.
He's another alien.
And
Like, that's
yes,
an unbelievable brain.
But also
yeah.
just the biggest sweetheart. Like everybody who worked with him was like, was kind of weird because he, like a lot of times he didn't give you like specifics. He'd give you kind of like a generalization,
Right.
and then like
Stay-
you play
stay
around.
within
But
these
he was
parameters.
so kind. Like
Yeah.
he'd give, like if he really didn't like he really wanted you, he'd give you a suggestion. But just really, he just sounds like just such an amazing, like just sweet, really, but still imaginative, creative,
Right,
like
right,
genius.
right. Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is like, usually there's like a,
I mean,
you know, like
gracious,
a-
Right, that
A fight between
you
them.
have to be a difficult person to be
like a creative genius.
creative genius.
But you
also
don't,
have to
because you could
difficult.
be-
or you could just be a cool
or
guy.
you could just be a cool dude.
right. And the other thing is look at Tangled to the Sora Rain Dogs.
I mean, they're amazing.
I mean,
I
this-
kind of look at it like, if you want to kind of like, if you're gonna meet you for the first time,
Yeah.
somebody's gonna meet you for the first time, they should probably put on this record and digest it and say, okay, well this is kind of
Yeah.
the
That's
the
so-
genesis of Tom Cheshire.
This
here.
really does
Right.
have a like.
I really hear
there
you.
I
is-
mean,
there is
I
your
tell people in
personality in
interviews
this.
all the time that I've been ripping off Tom Waits and Joe Strummer for years. Sure.
Well, well,
But, you
like,
know.
but just like the storytelling, but also like the imagination and like, but the genuine good-heartedness of it. Like
I would
it's
say like the song "Anywhere I Hang My Head," which is such a homo. What I love about him is he marries like this. He's punk, but he marries like this vaudeville with still elements of beat or certainly like just
Of course.
poetry, And then there's songs like "Hang Down Your Head," which could have been a Bruce Springsteen song.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
a simple
Yeah.
four like verse chorus song. Of
course, yeah.
But anywhere I hang my head, I've been there. Like I've lived in cars for a minute, and it wasn't good. He makes it sound almost pretty, but it's not good. But he's like, he has this line. He goes, my heart is in my shoes. Yeah. Like, I mean, like, what the heck? I've had my heart like down near my crotch or near my legs, and I've been in pain.
Right,
but my heart is in my shoes. Like what a painting. And the thing is, you close your eyes and you see a painting.
But I think my favorite on these, because like all the ones you mentioned are beautiful songs, like great. But my favorites are like Singapore,
the group. He's got so many wonderful percussions.
Where they really have, like the accordion or the different that make it sound almost.
Stompers.
Singapore, man.
I mean, it's like, is this?
In the land where the blind man can.
Is this like pirate music?
Oh, it's very much.
There's a shanty.
Or is it polka?
There's shanty.
Or is it like there's so
well, he
much.
loves cemetery
polka.
He loves polka. He loves
which actually I don't
vaudeville.
know if it's true because he likes to tell like
tells
fables.
He said he was born in the back of a cab in Mexico.
But you know he's just playing. But he was actually saying that there were like this is just like he said like the people in Cemetery Polka are really like family members, and they and other family members like call me up and they're just like, you really want to talk about like Aunt Mamie like that, or like Aunt Mamie or
that
like
is so. I actually was. This is actually terrible. I was managing a marketing company. We won't talk about it. I think you worked for me at the time.
Yeah.
But I was hiring a lot of people, and some lady came in for a job, and my job was to hire people, and her last name was Waits, and it's terrible. This is like in the 90s, and I was like, as a joke, I'm like, you know Tom Waits? She was like, so he's a cousin. I go, what? So I no longer interviewing this lady, and I'm like, I was talking about it. She's like, he doesn't like the family. He doesn't come around. Like he had like a falling out with certain parts of the family, and I'm asking her, she goes, do you want to hire me or what? And I go, you hired. She didn't come. She probably was like, Tom's just going to annoy me and ask questions.
All right, you're hired, but you're just going to hang around and talk to me.
I'm
going
to pay you $700 a week just to answer Tom Waits' questions.
That's right.
This was in the 90s. I was going through some stuff.
How
funny is that?
I would do that now, seriously.
And how cool is that back cover? Because it reminds me of like the Little Rascals and gangs and stuff in New York in the 50s and the 60s. I mean, you cannot get anything cooler, and I'm going to raise my Jameson to that.
Well, the interesting thing about the front cover, because a lot of people say it looks like
it's a drag queen, right?
Well, I did not get any Jameson this time.
Yes, you did.
Share a little
but
bit.
it's a lot of people like say it looks like Tom, but it's not Tom Waits.
It's not.
It's not, which is interesting. And I'd like to talk about some of the guest stars. Keith Richards played on this.
Yes, they're very good friends.
Yeah.
He tells
he was asked to play on this kind of like somebody was joking around. According to him, somebody was joking around like, well, if you could have anybody play on this, who would you ask? And he's just like, I don't know, Keith Richards.
Yeah,
and they're like, well, let's call him.
And they've become very good friends.
No, I was just joking.
And they've become very good. And he told, God, so many, he really could. So someone asked him about, how's your friendship with Keith? And it's so funny because people have said, Tom, I see you on stage and you do this. And I'm like, the funny thing is I was doing that before I even saw footage of him doing that, like on the big time video and stuff.
Sure.
But hey, hopefully decent minds, great minds think alike, or maybe I was channeling him without knowing it, But they asked him about Keith Richards, like, how's your friendship with Keith? He goes, he's very good with animals. Like this, and they go, what do you mean? And he goes, he just walks to an end of field.
Well, he
goes like this,
said that he has like this animal instinct that's very like.
Which Keith Richards is an alien. Yeah, he does an animal.
He moves like an animal. He's like has this animal instinct.
I love the whole record because even the songs that don't have hooks and they're just beautiful spoken word pieces. They just fit like I said. It's this. If we ever start a production company and do off-Broadway plays, like this would be one of the first things we do.
You were talking, you were saying earlier about like spoken word pieces, and you know that it's a signature of his. I didn't know this. I mean, I guess if I would have paid more attention, I would have, to have one spoken word type piece on every record. And so this is one of his like ninth and had a bit, yeah.
Oh, and then on Service for Bones, he's got that one. He goes, this lady walks in here, she's got a tear. One for every year he's away, and it's just like, God damn.
Yeah.
It's like, again,
the imagery of like the downtrodden of.
Why we do this show, why we get along so well. We like our passions, but we love it. I'm smiling. Like, I cannot smile, and like I love that when we listen to songs, like. We hug, or we hug someone we love, or we're by ourselves in a corner, or we're outside riding a bike in Amsterdam. Like, you close your eyes. Don't do that while you're riding a bicycle. No. But like, you can see, you see colors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here, speaking of that, here's how I got introduced to Tom Waits.
Yeah.
Was that when I was in high school, I took a road trip with my girlfriend to Austin, Texas.
Yes.
And this was '92 probably, so it was around the time like Slacker Remember the
Oh, yeah, the
Richard
movie, yeah.
Linklater movie? So it was like the Austin of that time period, and we stayed at this guy's
Interesting,
house
yeah.
in his apartment that was like actually passed by in the movie, you know, like at that time, and we went to Sound Exchange Records off the Strip, and he bought a copy. Not this. He actually bought Frank's Wild Years on tape.
Which is the third record of the trilogy,
Yeah.
which is a great record as well.
So by proximity, and he put it on his boombox, and it was on like auto return
All day.
all
Yeah.
day, all night. We just listened to that album over and over and over again in his apartment. And you know when you're in high school and you go to like a college or somebody's friend like who lived in
Yeah,
an apartment,
It's like that's the
and
cool,
how
like that's
cool
the
it
yeah.
was. It was like we're gonna listen to Tom Waits all night.
So
and
you know that's gonna
and
make
this
a
is
mark
gonna be
on you.
cool.
It left an imprint.
And honestly, it's a great way to expose yourself to
Yeah.
a Tom Waits record is to like listen to it several
That's true.
times
Yeah,
and,
'cause-
and sink into it multiple listens at a time.
Some of the
it
songs
will-
sound like stuff that we wouldn't know, but our parents know, like AM radio
Yeah,
stuff.
it
you
would
know?
like it would
And
you seep into
he
it
has
for
said,
sure.
He has said that he goes, I don't like to listen to music the way people do. I like to listen to my songs from 3 rooms over and
Yeah.
hear noises, whatever. And some of that sounds like that.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute. Like, is he speaking through a $2 CB radio box?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
like, and
he might have been.
whatever it is, it's executed like 100% for me.
I want
you
to.
know?
Oh,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, you wanna.
I'm just saying that this very tied to like road trips.
I
Yeah,
love that.
well, I think it's also then
and
tied
that
for you to like,
specific road trip.
because what it seems like it's like before you kind of you were still in high school, right? It's like
Yeah.
in between. So it's like
So like
it's
12th grade, graduating high
kind of
school.
like you're
Man, what a
coming
good road
you're coming
trip.
in, and so you like
Yeah.
you're obviously you look up to the people like in
Yeah.
college, like slightly older, and they're introducing you to something, and you're like you were into music like already,
Sure.
but then they introduce you to something which nothing really sounds like Tom Waits anyway.
Well, and that's the thing. To be honest with you, you hear that like his wife. So let's give her props. That
Yes.
she turned him on to Captain Beefheart
Right.
and Howlin' Wolf, and that's the sound. But then also he went his own way. And the thing is, and I love Captain Beefheart. But Captain Beefheart couldn't write these songs because
No.
he actually still writes
Right.
pop songs. So it's still
Oh,
they're
yeah,
like
no,
messed
he
up.
makes
They're messed
beautiful-
up,
Yes.
sad love songs, and
pop
pop
songs,
songs.
Beautiful songs.
but they're
I mean-
pop songs, but they're also
I mean,
like
downtown
so different.
downtown train is proof with
Yeah,
Rusty doing it. It's
yeah.
a pop song, hands down. you know?
Yeah.
And it's so good.
Well, you want to? Okay, so on this album also though is Mark. I think it's Mark Ribot.
Mark Ribot is my favorite guitar player.
I mean,
so that's
seriously,
another
so he
one of my
worked a
notes.
lot
Yeah,
with Elvis
Ribot.
Costello, right?
Yes, and John Zorn and
Yeah.
Tom Waits. So 3
Yeah.
badass people playing.
Yes.
My brother Scotty and I went to see Mark Ribot play in a club in New York, just him and an upright bass player. You can't get any cooler than this. He pulls up to the club in a yellow, gets out of a yellow cab, they pump the trunk, pulls out his guitar case and a little amp, walks over to the stage, just starts ripping.
Just turns
and I
it
go,
on.
I go,
That guy is like so
that's
badass.
the birth of cool. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
that-
Mark Ribot is my favorite
Yeah.
guitar player.
Yeah.
And the stuff he does
He's
on
good.
all the Tom Waits stuff, Real
Yes.
Gone,
Yes.
all these records he's jazz and heavy metal. And,
Well, I think
and
this
what
was
else? He's-
what's
and
very
he's-
angular.
very
It's
New
very.
York.
So New York.
It's very
complete package.
angular sounding.
Yeah, like
but I think,
like DNA sound, like
Yeah.
very like no wave sound.
I think
Yeah.
this was the first album that he played on, but then he continued
Yes, and he
his
still
like
does.
yeah.
I think he
Tom
basically
Waits.
does 3 songs on every album now. But
he
he's
did a
so-
whole bunch on this one though.
He's so
I think
awesome.
Keith Richards played on 3 songs on this, but Mark Ribot played on a lot.
Man, I just want to say, Tom Waits, you have, I've been pretty lucky. I met a lot of heroes of mine. Never met Tom Waits, and nor do I need to, since I annoyed his cousin at a job interview.
Sure.
But you
guys have
you
something to talk
shaped me as the artist that I am, and continue to strive to be, and also the human that I try to be.
Well, I also want to also not only shaping you, but your friendship with me, turning me
Well, because we were covering Jungle Bourbon in the 90s.
Exactly.
And you were like, what is
exactly.
this? I'm like, it's a Tom
and it
Waits
was like,
song.
and your cover was amazing. But
Thank you.
but it really, so it's so it influenced you, but then in turn, our friend,
Right.
had it,
I love
it
this.
influenced me.
And I love this show. This about the show. I think someone said the letter is about road trips. I think.
Oh
right?
yeah,
it?
I had a letter,
I mean, Tom
and I
Waits
might
so-
not be guiding the discussion.
Yeah.
Wait, do we want to
way.
do the shot? Do we want to do
Yes,
the shot?
yes.
This
Tom
one's
Waits,
Tom Waits.
Rain Dogs,
Two
stories,
Tom Waits,
stories.
for sure.
Beat Kinch, Matt.
Thank
Stiff Penalty. How you doing? We'll be done in a minute. Cheers.
Sorry about that, yeah.
This show is amazing. So what's this letter you got there? What's
All
this
right.
letter you got, buddy?
This is a letter from
I love you.
I did.
A lady. Oops, sorry, the wrong way. It's named. This is from Alicia Keys, but not
not
the Alicia Keys that you're thinking of. This is a different Alicia
That would be
Keys.
kind of like, that'd be like,
No, it's Keez.
Yeah, she's from Peoria, Illinois.
Awesome.
So
She's
I've been
pure.
there.
She's pure. She's a very nice lady.
exactly.
some Peoria.
Yeah.
So this question is about what was your favorite road trip that you've ever taken, or at least one that's more memorable, one that comes to mind.
Fresh in my memory is me and B. Kinch and B. Hines, West End Motel, brother. We did a nice trip to Big Sur, listening to Elvis Gospel, and we had a wonderful time. Drinking beers.
You guys drove out there?
Well, Brian and I were living in San Diego, and Brent and Marcelo News were playing in San Francisco. We jumped on a flight, hung out. It was Brent's birthday, rented a big SUV, and just partied. But we got pulled over and chalked our way out of that. I think the guy was an Elvis fan. But the bad part of it was it had been it was pissing down like raining at one point, and we were doing this big climb, and it's easy to climb down a mountain. But when you go to climb up it, what do you do? So we're grabbing stuff.
And it's
walking
slippery.
up, and it's slippery. And we got the worst poison ivy you could ever imagine in your life. That's the only downside. Other than that, it was a spiritual journey with two mates that I love and that I've been playing music with forever. And I don't know, man. Right now, off the top of my head, that's my answer. I'm sticking with it.
Stick with it.
Big Sur. Everyone should go.
All right. Is it me?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for you.
This one's also with the legendary Sue Joyce.
Love Sue Joyce.
Love Sue Joyce.
When we started dating, Sue she planned a trip where she didn't tell me where we were going, and so we got out on the road, and she was like, "Go that way, head that direction. Okay, we're going on this road."
She was just kind of like telling you where to,
Yeah, and she gave me a book of notes of like hints.
It sounds like a Tom Waits record.
Yeah, this was in the 90s, so we were young, got in the car, gone out.
She was already cool, but now she's like 4 steps up. Yeah.
And she directed me to Columbia, South Carolina. We went and hung out with my friend Billy Nation.
Yeah.
Who was also
who I knew from college.
Yeah, of course.
And who's old friends with Greg.
Yeah, Greg, of course.
Very cool name.
Billy Nation was the best man at our wedding.
Yeah, I've just heard
He's
his
like
name. I've just heard about it.
The first band Greg was ever in was with Billy Nation.
Yeah. So we went to Billy Nation's house in Columbia, and then we went to Papa Jazz Records, which is a big record store in Columbia. And it was a great fun time to go hang out with an old friend of mine.
Oh, so Sue planned that, like a surprise, hang out with an old friend.
Yeah,
and was she friends with Billy?
Yeah, like she knew who he was, kind of friends, but not.
Okay.
It was really for me.
She was
that's
trying
what I'm
to
saying. Like it was more for you. Like she knew.
She was trying to do right.
She didn't know him very well.
Yeah.
But she knew that you did, and that and it would be
And
like
the whole
fun,
fact that
like
it
a nice
was,
surprise. That
and-
is so sweet.
And I still have the little book of the
dude,
instructions
that's-
that she gave of
that is
hints of
awesome.
What's your favorite?
I can't even think about it honestly. I can't.
Well, you want to know something? The day's still young.
Well, yeah,
Let's
but
go
we'll be
for a
off.
drive.
Well, no. Only because my mom was in the military, and whenever she got transferred to a new place, we would always make a road trip out of it driving. So we would always make it
Ohio,
long and hit all
California,
Well, we
Florida,
would go from Wisconsin to California. I mean, it's like we went like Pikes Peak, and we went like Mount. Everything. And then like when she ended up transferred back to the Chicago area, we did like Yellowstone and like at the Grand Canyon. So we've always throughout my life, there's been several road trips where we saw national monuments and weird things like the Great Corn Palace in Nebraska several times.
Well, I'm a grandson of a sailor, and being a musician and the work that I do, I'm on the road, and I'm basically a land pirate these days. And I got to say, if you have an open mind and you want to let life be awesome,
it's going to be awesome.
Can be beautiful. Put on a Rolling Stones record or a Tom Waits record.
But I will say also, in the road trips though, the one thing that we could agree on, music-wise, when I was a teenager and stuff, was oldies. So that's when I really got
old radio songs,
my love
truck
of
songs,
all kinds of different oldies. Like Sam Cooke and stuff like that. Just love it.
Yeah. Love it. Love you.
Love it.
Thank you, Tom Waits.
Thank
Rain
you, Tom
Dogs,
Waits. Thank
Trackside,
you. Thank you, Tom Cheshire, for the pick.
Oh man, cheers.
Cheers.